Gather round, friends, and lend an ear to the embers of the unexplained. Percy Hawthorne here, your guide to the dusty archives of the extraordinary. Tonight's file, pulled from the shelves marked Secrets of Mount Weather, carries the chill of subterranean stone and the electric tang of something profoundly other. It speaks of Cold War ghosts, encrypted whispers from the dawn of the atomic age, and two souls who venture where the light fears to tread. So, settle close, pour yourself something strong, and let the shadows deepen. The Virginia air, thick with the scent of pine and damp earth, clung to Gabriel Sterling like a shroud as he navigated the winding mountain road. Beside him, Milo Hart drummed an erratic rhythm on the dashboard, humming a discordant tune that seemed to vibrate in tune with the unseen pulse Gabriel could feel emanating from the ancient bedrock beneath them. It wasn't a sound, not exactly. More a pressure, a low-frequency thrumming that resonated in his bones and set his teeth on edge, a dissonant chord plucked on the strings of the Blue Ridge Mountains themselves. His gift, that deep attunement to the unseen currents of the world, screamed wrongness. Still feel it? Milo asked, his usual manic energy subdued, eyes scanning the dense foliage crowding the road as if expecting ambush. His own intuition, that uncanny gut feeling he called his cosmic tingle, was clearly ringing alarm bells too. Stronger, Gabriel murmured, his hands tightening on the wheel. A linguist by training, a decoder of patterns both human and inhuman by necessity, he felt the pulse as a corrupted language, a syntax of dread. It's agitated, like something disturbed. Their destination, known only as sight, are on outdated maps, but whispered about in hushed, paranoid circles as Mount Weather, lay hidden beneath a seemingly innocuous government communications facility. Officially, a Cold War relic, a bunker designed to house the continuity of government should the missiles fly. Unofficially, according to fragmented, heavily encrypted World War II dispatches Gabriel had spent months painstakingly unraveling for scientific horizons, it was something far stranger. The dispatches, fragmented and coded in a hybrid of German Enigma variants and something non-human, spoke of Lichtbringer, the Lightbringer, not as a weapon but as an encounter. They hinted, obliquely and terrifyingly, at contact made not with a foreign power, but with an extraterrestrial intelligence during the chaotic energy surges of early nuclear tests at White Sands. Contact that had been contained, studied, and ultimately buried, literally, beneath Mount Weather. Milo had found the final clue, buried in the photographic vault of his mind. The pattern and the static, he'd said weeks ago, bursting into Gabriel's cluttered study, eyes wide. Remember those fuzzy transmissions intercepted near White Sands in 45? The ones the eggheads wrote off as ionospheric disturbance? I saw it again, Gabe, in the background of a declassified maintenance log from Mount Weather's primary antenna array, dated 1951. Same exact interference pattern. It's not natural. It's a signal, and it's still active. Now, standing before the imposing yet deliberately bland entrance building disguised as a FEMA regional office, Gabriel felt the weight of history and the chilling proximity of the unknown. Getting past the outer security perimeter had required Milo's unique blend of chaotic charm and improvisational genius. A convoluted story involving a lost geological survey team, a malfunctioning drone, and surprisingly convincing impression of a flustered FEMA bureaucrat that had momentarily baffled the guards just long enough for Gabriel's knowledge of obscure access protocols, gleaned from cross-referencing 100 declassified fragments, to grant them entry through a disused service tunnel. It felt less like breaking in and more like slipping through a crack in time, back into the paranoia of the 1950s. The air inside the service tunnel was cold, stale, and thick with the smell of concrete dust, aged lubricant, and something else, something faintly metallic, organic, dank. Gabriel's empathic sense recoiled. The walls weren't just concrete. They were layered with psychic residue, cold fear, desperate urgency, and beneath it all, a chilling, calculating curiosity that didn't feel human. He placed a hand on the rough surface, closing his eyes. Images flickered. Men in outdated military uniforms moving crates marked with biohazard symbols, the sharp tang of ozone in an unnatural, high-pitched whine, a profound, instinctive dread that froze the blood. They were terrified, Gabriel breathed. Opened his eyes to find Milo watching him intently, his usual levity replaced by sober concern. Whatever they brought down here, whatever they found, it scared them to their core. "Cheery," Milo muttered, shining his powerful flashlight beam down the seemingly endless tunnel. The light barely penetrated the gloom, swallowed by the oppressive darkness. "My spark's doing the fandango. Definitely not just mothballs and regret down here. Which way? Compass." Gabriel focused, letting his attunement flow outward. The thrumming pulse was stronger here, a physical vibration in the floor. It pulled him, like a lodestone pointing towards doom. "Down," he said, his voice tight. And deeper. Navigating the labyrinthine complex was a descent into a forgotten era. They passed cavernous storage rooms filled with decaying supplies, crates of vacuum-sealed rations from a Kennedy administration, racks of Geiger counters coated in dust, stacks of yellowing emergency broadcast scripts promising calm in the face of annihilation. They bypassed decontamination chambers with heavy lead-lined doors and eerie, empty dormitories that felt like tombs. The sheer scale was mind-boggling, a subterranean city built for an apocalypse that thankfully never came, or perhaps, Gabriel thought grimly, was merely delayed. The pulse intensified, becoming a physical pressure in their chests as they reached a heavy, riveted steel door marked only with faded, crimson sector gamma. Authorized personnel only. Level 10 clearance. It was unlike any other door they'd encountered. Thicker, older, its surface etched with faint, swirling patterns that seemed to catch the light in unnatural ways. Gabriel traced the pattern. It resonated with the corrupted syntax of the pulse. "This is it," he said. "The source is behind here. And something else. Something alive. Waiting." A wave of cold malice washed over his empathic sense, so intense it made him stagger. Hunger, containment, purpose. Milo swallowed hard, his photographic memory instantly recalling the complex locking mechanism schematic he glimpsed in an old technical manual fragment. Right. Level 10 clearance. "Piece of cake," he quipped, though his voice lacked its usual conviction. He pulled out a surprisingly sophisticated multi-tool and a small device bristling with wires. "Just gotta convince this antique. We're the welcome committee. Distract the angry thing behind the door if it starts knocking, yeah?" He winked, but his knuckles were white on the tools. The lock was a nightmare of mechanical and early electronic security. Milo worked with frantic precision, his fingers flying, muttering under his breath about bypass protocols and analog overrides. Gabriel stood guard, every nerve screaming. The sense of being watched intensified. He heard it then, a soft, wet scraping sound from the other side of the door. Then another, and another, like something heavy, multi-limbed, dragging itself across concrete. The metallic organic smell grew stronger, cloying, engineered. Gabriel realized with dawning horror. The dispatches mentioned biological shield. Not just guards, but creations. "Almost got it," Milo hissed, sweat beading on his forehead. A final click, a low hydraulic hiss, and the massive door began to grind open with agonizing slowness. The stench that rolled out was overpowering. Ammonia, decay, and that sharp, unnatural metallic tang. The beam of Milo's flashlight pierced the gloom, illuminating a high-ceiling laboratory that looked like a cross between a hospital operating theater and a butcher's shop from hell. Shattered glass crunched underfoot. Overturned gurneys lay rusting. Banks of dead monitors lined the walls, their screens dark and dusty. But it was the containment units that froze their blood, massive plexiglass cylinders, many shattered from the inside. Thick, viscous fluid stained the floors around them, mixed with shards of glass and other unidentifiable organic matter. And then they saw the things. They moved in the shadows at the edges of the light, scuttling with unnatural speed. Chitinous limbs, glistening wetly, scraped against concrete. Multiple eyes, like obsidian beads, reflected the flashlight beam with cold, alien intelligence. Some seemed vaguely insectoid, others more amphibious, with bulbous, pulsating bodies and whip-like tendrils. All bore the unmistakable marks of horrific bioengineering: mismatched limbs, exposed wiring fused with nerve clusters, metallic carapaces grafted onto weeping flesh. They were silent except for the wet sound of their movement and a low, guttural clicking that vibrated in the chest. Angry pets, Milo breathed, backing up slowly. Very, very angry pets. One creature, larger than the others, resembling a nightmarish fusion of scorpion and hairless dog, lunged from the darkness. Gabriel reacted on pure instinct honed by years of sensing hostile intent before it manifested. He shoved Milo hard to the side as a barbed tail, dripping with viscous fluid, whistled through the space where Milo's head had been. It struck the steel door frame with a shower of sparks. Chaos erupted. The bioweapons, disturbed from their stasis or patrol, converged. Gabriel's world narrowed to the terrifying ballet of survival. He used his attunement like a radar, feeling the surge of predatory intent before the attack came, dodging snapping pincers and lashing tendrils. He wasn't a fighter, but his awareness bought him precious milliseconds. He grabbed a fallen metal pipe, using it to parry a strike from a smaller, skittering creature, the impact jarring his arm to the shoulder. Milo, meanwhile, was a whirlwind of chaotic motion. His cosmic intuition screamed directions. Duck, left, roll now, allowing him to evade attacks with impossible, almost slapstick timing. He used the environment, tipping over carts laden with rusted instruments, creating barriers, blinding one creature with a cloud of acrid powder scooped from a spilled canister. "Think they like knock-knock jokes?" he yelled, scrambling behind a heavy console as a jet of corrosive fluid sizzled where he'd stood. "Who's there?" "Not U.S., hopefully." Gabriel spotted their objective across the ravaged lab. Dominating the far wall was a structure that defied easy description. It wasn't purely mechanical, nor entirely crystalline. It pulsed with a deep, internal light, the source of the thrumming vibration that had drawn them here. Wires and conduits, some ancient and corroded, others looking disturbingly organic and vein-like, snaked from it into the floor and ceiling. At its heart glowed a cluster of irregular, geometric crystals, radiating that same dissonant energy that scraped against Gabriel's senses. The Lichtbringer signal generator. It wasn't just active, it felt aware. It was broadcasting its corrupted song into the world. Reaching it meant crossing the kill zone swarming with engineer horrors. "The signal," Gabriel shouted, deflecting a claw swipe with his pipe. "We have to shut it down." "On it," Milo yelled back. His photographic memory had already mapped the lab during their frantic evasion. He pointed toward the catwalk running high along one wall. "High road. Less stabby things up there. Maybe." He bolted, weaving through the chaos, his intuition guiding him through near misses. Gabriel followed, covering their rear, his empathic sense of constant, screaming alarm. Reaching the catwalk ladder was a gauntlet. A creature with lamprey-like mouth parts launched itself from the shadows. Gabriel sensed its lunge of fraction early, sidestepping and bringing the pipe down hard on a joint. It shrieked, a sound that echoed painfully in confined space, but didn't stop. Milo was already scrambling up the ladder. Gabriel followed, kicking down at grasping limbs, feeling the cold chitin scrape against his boot. The catwalk offered a brief respite and a panoramic view of the nightmare below. The bioweapons milled, hissing and clicking, their attention divided. But the signal generator pulsed before them, its light casting long, distorted shadows. Up close, the sense of alien intelligence was overwhelming. Gabriel felt a psychic pressure, cold and immense, probing at his mind. Images flashed, blinding light, the shuddering earth of a nuclear detonation, a desperate, non-human consciousness caught in the blast wave, lashing out in pain and confusion, then being captured, studied, used. The contact hadn't been peaceful. It had been an act of violence, trapping a wounded, terrified entity. The Lichtbringer wasn't a bringer of light. It was a prisoner turned weapon, broadcasting its pain and rage as a destabilizing signal designed to amplify human aggression, to trigger the very conflict it had been captured during. "This thing, it's an agony," Gabriel gasped, the emotional echo almost paralyzing. They tortured it, used its distress signal to manipulate geopolitics, to keep the Cold War cold, or maybe to eventually make it hot. Milo stared at the pulsating core. "And it's waking up, isn't it? Feeling the world getting tense again, ready to play its old tune." His intuition confirmed it. The pulse was building, synchronizing with global tension points Gabriel could only begin to fathom. "Shut it down, Milo," Gabriel urged, tearing his gaze from the hypnotic, painful light. "Find the way. Anything." Milo's eyes scanned the generator's structure, his mind accessing every schematic, every technical manual he'd ever absorbed. He pointed to a complex junction box fused with crystalline growths. "There, the primary regulator. But it's integrated. Messing with it physically might cause a feedback pulse. A big one." He looked at Gabriel, his face serious. "Your turn, beacon. Talk to it. Calm the storm. I'll handle the wires." Gabriel understood. He had to reach the trapped consciousness, not with force, but with empathy. He placed his hands on the warm, vibrating surface of the generator, ignoring the instinctive revulsion. He closed his eyes, shutting out the chaos below, the scraping of claws on metal as the bioweapons began to scale the catwalk supports. He dove inward, past the layers of human engineering, past the pain and rage, seeking the core spark of the alien entity, the awareness caught in a nuclear firestorm so long ago. He poured out his own sense of the world above, the fragile beauty of the Blue Ridge forest bathed in moonlight, the quiet resilience of life, the potential for peace, not just conflict. He projected understanding, not of the violence done to it, but of its profound loneliness and pain. He offered not a threat, but a promise of silence, of rest. He showed it Milo not as a threat, but as a fellow being striving to help. "You are heard. You are felt. The pain can end. Let the song fade." A wave of psychic feedback slammed into him. Images of crushing darkness, of dissection tables, of the cold void of space. The entity's suffering was oceanic. Gabriel held firm, a rock in the storm, radiating calm, acceptance, and the simple, profound truth of shared existence. Release the signal. Find peace. He felt a shift, a tremor in the immense, wounded consciousness. The blinding light within the crystals flickered. The oppressive psychic pressure lessened, replaced by a wave of profound, ancient weariness and a glimmer of something else. Recognition? Resignation? "Now, Milo!" Gabriel shouted, his voice raw. Milo, trusting Gabriel implicitly, didn't hesitate. He jammed his multi-tool into junction box, not to cut, but to bridge, to reroute. He wasn't disabling it. He was offering it a different path, a circuit of release. Sparks flew. The generator shuddered violently. The thrumming pulse hit a deafening crescendo and then cut off. Silence. Not just the absence of sound, but the absence of that terrible pressure, the psychic weight, the dissonant hum that had vibrated through the mountain for decades. The internal light of the crystals dimmed to a faint, cool ember glow. The creature scaling the catwalk closest to them froze, its multiple eyes dimming, then simply slumped, falling back to floor with a heavy thud. The others below ceased their aggressive movements, becoming listless, confused, like puppets with their strings cut. The engineered life, deprived of the signal that had perhaps sustained or directed them, simply stopped. Gabriel sagged against the generator, drained beyond measure, the emotional residue of the alien entity slowly receding like a tide. Milo slumped beside him, breathing heavily, wiping grease and something less pleasant from his face. "Told you just needed a little chat," he rasped, offering a weak grin. They didn't linger. The silence felt fragile. They retraced their steps through the eerily quiet lab, past the motionless bioweapons, through the labyrinth of tunnels, the oppressive dread lifting with every step away from Sector Gamma. Emerging into the cool, pine-scented night air felt like breaking the surface after an eternity underwater. The mountain felt different, cleaner. The stars above seemed impossibly bright. Gabriel looked back at the unassuming entrance, a tomb for secrets too terrible to bear. The encrypted dispatches, the alien contact born of atomic fire, the monstrous creations, the weaponized signal of a tortured mind. It was a ledger of human ambition and cruelty intertwined with cosmic horror. They hadn't destroyed the generator, merely silenced it, granting the entity within a measure of peace. What secrets still lay buried? What other Sector Gamma existed? The mountain kept its deepest secrets. Percy Hawthorne's voice returns, softer now, the embers glowing low. And so, the ledger on this particular strangeness closes for now. Gabriel Sterling and Milo Hart walked away from Mount Weather that night, carrying the weight of what they'd witnessed. The Cold War's darkest secret, not of espionage, but of extraterrestrial pain weaponized. They silenced a signal designed to turn fear into fire, granting a measure of peace to an entity caught in humanity's crossfire. But the mountain remains, a silent sentinel holding its breath. The engineered terrors lie dormant, the alien mind rests, but the archives of the unexplained are vast, and some doors, once open, can never truly be sealed shut. Remember, the world hums with more mysteries than answers. Keep your eyes open, your mind curious, and perhaps carry a spare coffee for a friend. You never know when the next descent into darkness might require a spark of light or a well-timed joke. This is Percy Hawthorne, reminding you, the archive is never truly complete. Good night.